Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the 180. We're actually finally going drifting. We're heading up to Pheasant Wood Circuit next weekend for Reetsuri. So it's Saturday and Sunday, so going to be doing another bolt check over the whole car. Going to be changing all the fluids in the car, engine, gearbox, diff. I've already noticed I've got one bolt loose on the bell housing. So yeah, as I said, check every nut and bolt. Just service the car, and then if I've got my oils ready to go. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to drop the engine oil first. So pretty straightforward stuff. Just going to throw some gloves on, but she is pretty dirty under here. I will give it a clean after this. But I've got a 14mm spanner. I'll grab my oil drain tub and drop it out. What I might do as well, I like to just catch a little bit of the oil and just check it out, look for any metal flakes. But what I also do is I need to buy an oil filter cutter, because what I like to do is cut the oil filter open, pull it apart and check the elements in there to see if there is any underlying issues in the internals, which I think is a good preventative maintenance. And you can even keep it, I usually keep it in a plastic bag over time and see, you can actually track if it's gotten worse over time. You might say, whether you need an engine rebuild or not, whether you've spun bearings or whatever, or on its way out. So, now what you can do as well is, I ran the car for a little bit earlier, probably about 10 minutes, just to flow all the oil around the engine, because it's been sitting for a while. And also it will come out a lot easier rather than being stone cold and gluggy. So at least this way you're getting the majority of it out, apart from the little bit that will be sitting on the bottom of the sump. So coming out looks relatively clean. Usually will be a little bit smoky because of the E85, or like a bit of a haze in the oil. Just grab a bit here. Now I usually service the car every second event, probably before the third event, so every second event. It's cheap maintenance, I guess. So oil and filter, I've got a date on there. It was the 2nd of Feb since I last changed it, so that would have been just prior to the first event this year that I took it out to. So from then, so I had a whole track day, a comp day, and then I also ran it on the dyno would have been a couple of hours during the day to find an underlying issue with the fuel system, which is now being sorted. So pretty pumped to drive the car actually. It might be a little bit different to how it was last tuned. So whilst that's draining, I'll get a hand of the filter from underneath here. I typically use a standard Toyota filter. I tend not to go for aftermarket. Yeah, I'm using one today, but typically you sort of can't go wrong with OEM filters. It's going to be the best type of filtration for the filter. But in saying that, for the moment, all I could get a hand of, I usually have a couple of spares, but is a K&N filter, which I did used to run in the beginning, but then went back to the factory filters, which I couldn't get a hand of by this weekend to service. So you'll see a factory one come off, which I'll get off now. Now you only hand tighten these, but once they're on, over time I've found they tighten up. Not tighten them up themselves, but they're just to break the lock a little bit tight. So I'll just grab a rag. Now I know I'm going to make a mess here, but I'll just clean it up once I'm done. So I'm running a Mishimoto thermostat oil block. So what that means is until the car gets the temperature, it won't actually pass any oil through the oil cooler, as it's not needed when it's not even at operating temp. So I think I've got a, or just slightly priced, I think it's a 68 or 70 degree thermostat in there before it starts passing any oil. Good thing about the aftermarket filters that I like anyway is they sometimes have a bolt head on top of the filter, so it helps you to loosen it when you are removing it, but I never use it to tighten them up. You only just want it hand tight when you're putting it on. So I'm just going to clean the oil block before I put it on. And then you can use rubber grease to put a bit of a lubricant on the filter before you put it on. And actually what I like to do, I like to put the dates so I know when I also last serviced it. So whilst this oil's running, I'll grab a bit of it and just put it on the edge of the O-ring here. There's a bit of a lubricant. And as I said, you just want it hand tight. So that's the oil filter changed. Didn't make too much of a mess actually. And every once in a while there's a copper O-ring on this sump bolt, so I usually change it every now and then. So I've only just changed this one recently, so it's still got a good crush on it when you tighten it. So just like that. And when you are tightening the sump bolt up, you don't want to reef on it. It doesn't have to be super tight, so just a nice little nip and that's done. Alright, so filters changed, oil's drained. I'll do the gearbox and diff oils. I'm running a G-Force GSR 4-speed dog box. That runs a Motul, I think it's a 75 140 gear oil. It's actually a blue gear oil, and it's recommended you only use the motor oil on the gearbox, even the winter's diff, as far as I know. So I've had it in the car for about, time-wise it's about 2 years, but I've probably been out with it, I don't know, probably 10-12 times. So I believe the actual life of the oil doesn't last too long. I mean, as far as I know, with my experience, you're probably better off to change it every 6 months. Not this type of oil, probably like engine oil if it's not changed more regularly. But I've left this in it, for about 1.5 years, 2 years. So hasn't had a lot of drive time on it. I know it's good quality oil, but I'm going to drain it, as I said, because it hasn't been drained since the first time. So I'm expecting it to be slightly metallic-y, because just from the first wear of the gears, both the diff and the gearbox. So it's just that's a sump plug there. So I'm not sure if it's going to gush out. I might even leave the top plug in it so it doesn't gush out. And again, I'll probably catch some just to inspect it, have a look at it, and then I'll drain the rest. And what I'll do, I'll throw this rag over the exhaust so we don't get any oil on the actual heat material exhaust wrap. Get that out of the way for a minute. Oh, shit, she's pretty tight. Now that that's loose, I'll just put you over here. I'll drain that. And as I said, I'll catch a little bit just to check it out. Looks pretty good. So on the sump plug, I've noticed there isn't any metal filings, which is a good sign. The only thing I've noticed is a little bit of assembly grease actually. So it looks like it's similar to the ARP stuff that you use on the head studs and main studs. So that's a positive sign. Now with these gearboxes, you can actually run a oil cooler, because sometimes when they are used quite a bit, especially in drifting, high revving, in some of the longer circuits, can cause quite a bit of heat. So what I've done is grab these stickers, which you can see just up there, which actually give you the temperature operating, the hottest it's ever gotten. So I'll just focus that in slightly, get in there a little more. So it's reached, I'd say, about 90 degrees or 190 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've spoken to the shop that I've bought the gearbox off, and they're saying that's nothing to worry about. You wouldn't run an oil cooler on it. So you may ask how you run an oil cooler on these, but on the side of the gearbox, I'm not sure if you can see, probably can't, but I'll grab a torch. So where you see the hex bolt and the bolt thread, wire, sorry, there's a billet plate here, and you pull that off and you actually put another plate in there that has a gear which runs, an idler gear, that's the one, that runs inside the gearbox that does touch one of the other gears, and it actually pumps oil in and out of the gearbox. So you can connect the cooler onto it, so it'll have AN fittings. So if I ever did, I'd have to reroute the exhaust, but that's where it would be if you were to run a cooler on the G-Force gearboxes. What I'll also show you guys is I had to change all the fuel lines. Previously they were a rubber E85 approved line apparently, but I've changed it to Teflon braid and alloy hard line. So I've routed that through underneath there, or maybe I can show you, yep, through there, over the diff, and finished it just up here. So good thing I've got a cousin who's a plumber, so brought down his bending tools. Although it is relatively easy to bend this line, it's pretty well, fragile, call it, but with the tools it gives you a nice flowing line, so you're not crushing any part of the line. So -8 feed lines, 2 feed lines, and then there's a -6 return. So quite happy with that, how that came out. Don't mind the grease or the road dirt, it's pretty dirty. pretty tight. Take that off before I get covered in oil. Ooh. Now that definitely needed a change. So it's both the same oil in both Gearbox and Diff, and this one is quite dark than the other one. So, right, so that's still draining at the moment. I did take off the well, what I thought was a fill plug on this side up here, but it's actually not. Luckily, I found my Winters. Well, I've got a quick change gear ratio chart, and on the chart it actually shows you how to, or where the filling points are, and essentially the service points of the diff. So just focusing in, or maybe on just that picture. So it says to only fill the oil 2 inches below the actual drive shaft line, which is that circle in the middle. So the fill hole, I can fill it from the hole the plug I've taken out, but in order to determine the level of the oil is that grommet on the other side of the diff, which is that one there. So I'll undo that and use it as a level point, and this side for a fill point. Now, as far as this says, it doesn't say you have to take off the rear cover. Rather, the rear of the casing can also be used as an inspection hole. So you can use the one at the back of the diff here as an oil level hole as well, it's saying. So I'll use this as a fill hole, and use this side and even the other side as a way to gauge the oil level. So typically, even with gearboxes as well, what you want to do is just fill it where it's just starting to dribble out of those holes. So I will get my H8 again and undo that on this side, and I'll also do the one at the back. Right, so when it comes to filling the diff and gearbox, I just went out to a super cheap auto and bought this little pump action bottle, because you can't quite get either of these bottles in, even though they do have a, I'm pretty sure they do, there's like a plastic snout that comes out of the bottles. So, and with this as well, you can just hook this line into the hole and just pump it nice and easily so you don't make too much of a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and top this up, make sure it's clean. So the gearbox and diff both run the same oil. As I was saying, it's Motul 75-140, so I guess remembered it right. I'd actually compare it to the oil that came out. So these are 1 litre bottles. I think they take roughly 2.5 litres. So I bought 3 litres per unit, and it doesn't always hurt to have a spare around. But you can definitely tell the difference between the fresh oil and the used oil, so I'm glad that I'm changing it. So simply goes in like that. Make sure that's on, and we'll go and pump away. Alright, so as I said, feed that through, hook this in, and this has got an alloy bit on it so it won't cause any damage to the threads when you're getting it in, wiggling it in, and that way it's still a relatively easy job as one person pumping it in. So just like that. Alright, so oil level's fine. I've just got to, I noticed I've got to tuck some wiring up, zip tied up underneath the dash. But we'll get it started, let the oil run around. Make sure she's got oil pressure. And then we'll go and clean her up.
fucking to me. Don't feel fucking to me. Don't feel fucking to me. Don't feel fucking to me. Come on. Don't feel fucking to me. Don't feel fucking to me. Come on. Don't feel fucking to me. Don't feel fucking.
thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Next time you'll see us out on the track at Pheasant Wood, so I can't wait to get behind the wheel again. It's been too long, so absolutely stoked about that. Other than that, I've just got to pack everything, spares, toolkit, tyres, fuel, and then we're going to head up. So thanks for watching. If you've got any questions about the car, comment below, and if you like what you're seeing, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.